So we were all worrying, how come Ndlozi didn't show up for the convention and he wasn't there? And and I believe him. He says that he was suspended because they felt that because he knew that Shivambu was leaving, that he's a traitor and all this. He says that when Shivambu told him he was leaving, he said also take the rest of the leadership into confidence. So once he does that, he did nothing wrong because Shivambu told him that he's leaving in personal. It was a personal thing. And he also told that guy to leave. And then Malema comes out and says that, oh, you're trying to underthrow the party and do this and that, and you want to go to MK party. Well, the truth is here. Ndlozi is not going to the MK party. He's found God as a preacher, maybe, or he's going to become a professor. I knew him. I've hung out with Ndlozi. We used to argue at Wits. We used to argue because back then I wasn't a socialist and he was a socialist. And I used to tell him, okay, you might be right, but I'm not going to listen to you. But I know one thing about that guy. He's a purist. What I mean by a purist is that he doesn't care about money or power. He cares about the revolution. And I think he has finally left politics. He has retired and he's going to teach in universities and stuff because he's given up on trying to change South Africa through politics. I don't blame him. It seems like politics is about money. And even though I think Malema is a good warrior, politics has also corrupted him. He did some things with the bank scandal, money. He's gotten money from Britain and other sources. He went to go see the Queen before she died. So I'm not saying he's a bad person, but he's been corrupted. But it seems like Ndlozi is a purist. But I think he realizes that if you want to change the world, you might have to do it like Malcolm X, who we still love, or Stephen Biko, who we still love, or Hani, who we still love, or Lumumba, who we still love, or who's the other guy, Martin Luther King, who we still love. They were activists. I'm going to go back to Obama. Obama started off as an activist, then became a president. We saw what happened with that. Once you get involved in election politics, you can't continue. And then Ndlozi has shown us that he's a true activist because he left it because he realizes it's a dirty sport. I don't know how effective he'll be in university, but I'm wishing him the best. What do you say, Lorato? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think, I mean, we, like I was just saying to Afarabi now, that Ndlozi was one of the great hopes in terms of black leadership.
Yeah.
One of the most articulate leaders that the EFF had, and he was able to sort of hold his ground and with principles in terms of getting his message across. Brilliant singer also. Um,
Singer.
so yeah, yeah.
Oh, so he's gonna be a gospel singer like Mahalia Jackson in church. Go ahead, go
Yeah.
ahead. I've heard him sing
There's
too. Very
like, I
beautiful.
think,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, during COVID times, he used
Yeah.
to host like an EFF like jazz hour type of thing
Oh
where he
man,
would sing like struggle
I
songs.
hope you have his address. We got to get that guy's address and get him on our show. I'm serious. I'm not joking. Continue. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. I wish
Yeah.
I had gotten his email when I knew him at Vit.
So yeah,
Yeah.
man, I think um
Yeah.
yeah, and I think mainly it's his principles that he sort of stuck to, when Floyd approached him and told him this, and he said, no, tell this to the leadership, that you want to leave. um and he held it in confidence, as a principled person would, because he says himself
No, that guy is
that he's not a
principled.
gossiper,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's not gonna go behind Floyd's back to rush to say, hey, you know what Floyd told me, and
Yeah.
then let the man tell the story himself, um rather than him rushing the story
Yeah. I think he
to
did the right
whoever.
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so this was the right thing for him to do. But of course, I think like these power dynamics that sort of happen within a leader's mind when he sees certain things happen. This is particularly in the case of Maliman and him being
I'll cut in quickly.
uh,
It sounds like Stalin. Stalin might have been a good person, but
yeah,
he was
yeah,
paranoid. He was paranoid. Continue. Yeah.
yeah, being paranoid and suspicious
Yeah.
and anxious and all those things like that
Hmm.
actually took this entire thing too far,
Yeah.
by suspending Rosie from the conference, and even like, I mean, outright saying like
He got
un
personal with his wife and everything. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, unprofessional things
Yeah.
um, on the internet via the media and all those things. And I remember they some of the EFF members who were sort of in support or not so much, or who were empathetic towards Ndlozi, were saying, no, but tell us what he did and put him through an official disciplinary hearing instead of just like
Summary.
throwing, yeah, like sideline comments at him,
Yeah.
which is something that when we discussed it a couple of weeks ago, we did say was like a bad look on Malema, in
Yeah.
terms of his leadership style now seeming a little bit too dictatorial. But I think Mbuyiseni Ndlozi might have a lot of impact in the academic space and in other like social programs that he would be able to participate in as a
Yeah.
civilian, and as an academic, as an
Also,
accomplished
al-
academic.
also, hopefully, not just academics. Academics is one part of the activist movement because I want to be an activist. I think
Yeah, yeah,
you too,
yeah, yeah,
Lorenzo,
yeah,
you're smart and you want to be an academic, but that's not enough. You got to be like Dr. Martin Luther King, have your PhD, but also get out on the streets and move people. Yeah. Also,
yeah, yeah,
Andile,
sure.
which is how do you pronounce his last name? Andile Mixelani or something. Yeah, that guy is also a
Andre,
great person. And these guys need to continue writing articles and moving forward because they've built up people who. So what I'm saying is Andile has a following and what's his name has a following too, and Ndlozi has a following. They can't let down their followers. They have to keep on
yeah,
pushing
yeah,
them
yeah,
forward.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Sure, sure. And I think one of the sort of sad things about the rise of the EFF, um, and now it's what seems like its impending decline, is the fact that when it was coming up, you speak about your days at Verts repeatedly. Is that it gathered all these minds that were sort of
Oh yeah, it was
um,
beautiful because I knew a lot of guys. There's another guy Mbongazi Dianci. I don't know if you know him. He was also black conscious, a very brilliant guy, but he got caught up in drinking and shit. But I'm saying South Africa is a country with a lot of brilliant people, but it's a country with a lot of violence and tension. So it tends to interrupt the movement. Continue. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think that entire sort of like intellectual movement um,
yeah,
that propped up the EFF is sort of now like scattering.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and that's not a good thing to see. I mean, we are seeing more intra-party sort of disagreements, um, so much so that it makes it difficult for even an EFF and an
Yeah,
MK party to sort of coalesce and
yeah.
have some kind of conversation and things like that in terms of like what a black agenda could be
Mhm.
in South Africa. So yeah, I think um,
But you've
it's
got the parties like the PAC and the Communist Party. I think there needs to be a student movement and a labor union movement which goes outside of elections and causes strikes and things to get this shit on the ground. And also the 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 educated class like Ndlozi, they need to connect with the rural people who I think guys like Malema are better connecting with because they are good with rhetoric. And like, I'm not complaining, like, kill the boar, which is okay. But you also have to educate people in the shacks in those towns to realize how socialism will help them too. So I think that's what we need to move towards moving forward. What do you think, Lorato? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think activism is the right way to do that. And
Mm.
possibly his involvement with sort of like theological movements.
Yeah, liberation theory,
Yeah,
which is big in South America with theology and stuff.
for
Yeah.
sure. Might be also able to push him towards that, because a lot of people in general ascribe to these
Yeah.
theological
For
ideals
example,
and Christian
I
ideals.
I won't say I'm an atheist, but I don't believe in theology. I don't believe there's a God in the sky, but I believe that there are principles that we can follow, and I think that Catholicism and Christianity and Islam and Voodoo and the traditional religions of South Africa, Ubuntu and everything covers humanity, and we all need to focus on that. We need to be spiritual because we have to counter because even South Africa is a material country. They think, oh, it's only our minds, it's only our land, it's only Marx. No, we have to go beyond Marx and land and minds. We have to go to spirit or Ubuntu or to voodoo or whatever. We have to merge magic and religion with socialism and science, everything together. What do you think, Lorato? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's the direction that
Yeah,
we,
it seems like that's what
we
Ndlozi
have.
is doing. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, we have to be going into, because a spiritual consciousness is important in
Yeah.
terms of how
And I think
we
that
create
was
solidarity.
that's what was missing with Cabral and Fanon and even the guys in Mali. They're talking about political and material forces, but we also have to go back to spiritual forces. You can continue. Sorry for cutting in. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so those are some of the most important sort of things that can hold a community together. Whether that community is a community of believers or
Yeah, it doesn't
um,
matter, but you have to
yeah,
connect at a
yeah,
human level. Yeah,
but
yeah.
just to have that those principles will be very,
Yeah.
very important to have.
This is an aside, but I've been watching a lot of videos where they show those Zulu dances where the people follow the rhythm and they kick their leg. Man, that shit is fantastic. And then they fall on the ground with the rhythm. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure.
Beautiful. And that thing is now on the internet and it's been going on for years, but I didn't realize that these guys understand rhythm so beautifully. And each person who dances, they interpret the rhythm differently. But it seems like it's off topic, but that's part of the spiritual music, rhythm and community. And you have a bunch of girls together and guys, and they're a community together. They're chanting, and it brings them closer. What do you think, Lorato? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a huge history behind that someone Umbuso Koza. I don't know if you know Umbuso Koza. He works.
But I know him now. I'll find out about him tomorrow. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, he works a lot with, I mean, with the isiZulu nation in
yeah.
general. He's an isiZulu um, historian who works through sound and music.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Um,
And these kids,
and-
they interpret the rhythm, and when they fall on the ground, they meet the beat, but they also reinterpret
yeah,
the beat.
yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah.
jazz. And also it's good because these kids aren't doing Kendrick Lamar or or Drake. They're not like us. They're doing their own rhythm and they're coming together. Sorry, continue. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, they also follow the American trends
Oh
and
yeah,
things
they do
like
it too, but
that.
they're
But but
complex and
but
they're
yeah,
complex. Yeah.
but they stay rooted to their own practices. So
Yeah.
it's great to see something like that continue.
Yeah, because back
But
in
I
the day,
think,
I would only see I'm not Zuma, or some guys with war spears, and it doesn't look as good as what these kids are doing. These kids are taking it to another level. Continue. Sorry,
yeah,
we're getting
no,
off
for sure.
topic, but you know, you never know where we're gonna go with our shows. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I think that's where sort of like the energy is in terms of this idea of heritage conservation
Yeah,
and revitalization in such a way that it moves
yeah,
the spiritual needle in a particular way, in terms of garnering a certain kind of consciousness,
yeah, yeah,
that will also move the needle in terms of politics.
yeah.
And I think it's important then that in the many ways that we can connect with people, we should. And I think
No,
that is definitely something that we're going to see someone like Mbuyiseni Ndlozi do in terms
yeah,
of the work
we'll do a
that he
special
will do.
show on
He
him
will
on our
do
cultural channel because
because
I
this
think
isn't.
those videos are going viral on Instagram, but to me they're beautiful because I see young people, they understand rhythm, and each person has their own style. They don't follow the beat directly. They even redirect the beat, and it's very beautiful. I love it. I love that shit, man. Yeah, I really love it. Yeah. So we're gonna move on because
Yeah,
we have limited time, but I'm gonna go to Falabi. What do you think about Ndlozi stepping down? I think he's shown that he's not a betrayer of EFF because he's totally gotten out of the game. He didn't go to MK party, and I think that's a good thing because if he went to MK party, they'll say that Zuma bribed him to come. He's getting out of the political game, but I still think that uh, Malema can still be a leader. He just has to learn from some of his mistakes. I think he's a little bit too paranoid, and also the banking thing undermined him a little bit, where he was a little bit corrupt. But all human beings are corrupt. Even I'm corrupt too. So go ahead. What do you think, Afolabi? Yeah.
Okay, basically, I think you are quite right, but I feel the leadership at EFF should be able to provide concrete evidence that the allegations against Ndlozi are actually accurate and correct, because
Yeah.
it will be undermining their leadership credibility. You've said this guy is a mole that has been planted in the EFF for the MK party, first and foremost, and then secondly, you said he was privy to the fact that Shivambu was going to leave. So there has to be concrete evidence. Otherwise, people will begin to look at um, Malema as an authoritarian
Sorry to cut in front
leader.
of you. Just a point. I want to make sure this is clear.
Okay.
And Ndlozi said that there should have been an investigation and a due process, and there wasn't. Continue.
Yes, yes. And they didn't do that. So
Yeah.
it was just, I think it was mere hearsay. And like you rightly mentioned, Malema has become paranoid because of what happened with Shivambu. And a good leader should be able to develop a successor. With all this kind of ostracizing and suspensions, it will be difficult for Malema to have someone he can trust in the
And also
AFF.
to develop the youth movement. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
who can succeed him and carry the vision to the next generation, because he's beginning to ostracize a lot of people, and some of his moves are not just as transparent as they're supposed to be.
Yeah.